Today we're going to learn how to build extra combat Bumi.
First things first, let's get into the Wincons. So we have Ashaya. Ashaya turns Bumi into a forest, and Bumi states that when Bumi deals combat damage to a player, untap all lands you control. After this phase, there's an additional combat phase. Only land creatures can attack. So Bumi attacks. Bumi is a forest. He deals combat damage. He untaps. He attacks because he's a forest. He deals combat damage, and that keeps happening until the person dies. Then we have Aggravated Assault. Assuming Bumi is unblockable, you attack with Bumi, you untap all your lands, you pay Aggravated Assault's ability to get an extra combat, and then that keeps going on until the game is over. Then we have War Cadence. War Cadence is like a reverse propaganda, where if you want to block, you have to pay. And you pay X, where X is whatever I want it to be, depending on how much mana I have. With the ramp package in this deck, that is a lot of mana, so it gets out of hand quickly. Then we have Akroma's Memorial, which gives protection to Bumi, gives them flying, first strike, and what else. You can kind of see how this gets out of hand quickly if it doesn't get dealt with. And last but not least, we have the Lina Wild Mage. So there's nothing better than having two Bumis. So if I roll a 1 through a 14, I create a tapped and attacking version of Bumi, and that triggers his abilities twice. So more combat phases, more mana. And then if I roll a 15 to 20, I create one of those tokens and roll again. This gets out of hand very, very quickly. Next, we have Bumi's protection package. There is a lot of artifacts that get equipped to him, which kind of makes this deck kind of Voltron-y, but I promise you, there's a lot of support creatures in here. So if you guys see, a lot of these are revolved around making him either indestructible or unblockable, or tapping down objects so that he can get through. Because once Bumi gets through, we can untap our lands and play a lot more bigger things or scary things. Here is Bumi's extra combat package. So as you see, we have Ansrag the Quake Mole, which I think is great. If you block, then there's an extra combat trigger. Then all the other ones give extra combats depending on what type of creatures are attacking or who attacked. The Wincons I mentioned also have extra attack triggers, but these are just one-offs that don't necessarily win me the game, but they're great to have to untap all my lands. Up next, we have the ramp package. We are trying to get Bumi out as fast as humanly possible. That way he can come into the game, have summoning sickness. Hopefully he doesn't, because we have a lot of haste enablers. If we need to wait one more turn, so be it, but as long as we get him out as fast as possible, he's big enough that the trample will go over 1 or 2 blockers. He'll untap, and then we have a whole bunch of more mana to do things with. Next, we have the card draw package. Bumi makes a ridiculous amount of mana, and sometimes we are hellbent. To make up for that, I put a good amount of card draw into this deck so that we always have answers on our hand. Bumi is constantly being removed, or my board state is too crazy and it gets board wiped, and having the answers in hand from these card draw enablers comes in handy. The removal package comes with a modest 8 forms of removal, anywhere from targeted artifact removal to permanent removal to enchantment removal. Anything and everything that we could possibly need to remove from the board is in here. Next, we have our support package. So in here, you'll find anything from haste enablers to make our creatures go fast, Bumi attack as soon as possible, to earthbenders that make our lands bigger and more powerful. That way, that second combat turn for lands is completely debilitating to our enemies. As you see here, we have Balls of Bossing Say. With the crazy amount of mana that we make from Bumi untapping, it's easy to cast this and make everything indestructible. We also have 1+1 counter enablers and uncounterable spell enablers as well. I also just noticed that I left these 2 out. Jumbo Cactuar is a Wincon, but it's extra steps that sometimes I'm not able to pull off. And Ouroboros, everybody knows, it just goes completely crazy if unchecked. Makes everything big. Bumi can become a 20/20 out of nowhere. Definitely great supports to have. Next, we have our board wipe and combat damage prevention package. I only run 2 board wipes in this deck. I'm not board wipe crazy in here. I don't want to be wiping my board, and usually I have enough creatures on the board where I don't need to board wipe. I can just absorb a lot of the combat damage. And if I was to get my board wiped or not have enough blockers, I have a Fog. Fog has literally won me games. Last but not least, we have our land package. So what you see in front of you is all of the non-basic lands. Some notable ones that I'm going to name off is Evendo Walking Haven, Poor Man's Guy's Cradle, Talon gets a Madara, which should be in the protection package, but it's a land, so I have it here. But it protects Bumi at all costs. Also, we have Bossing Say and Fire Nation Palace. Both of them are enablers where I could either Earthbend or make a lot of mana with the Firebending ability. We also have Secret Tunnel and Darksteel Citadel. Secret Tunnel being that it's unblockable when it's Earthbended, and Darksteel Citadel is indestructible. Great lands to have to make them big and make them Earthbend, because if they get destroyed, they just come back to you. Last but not least of the two ones that I want to mention is Rogue's Passage and Yavimaya Cradle of Growth. Rogue's Passage makes other things unblockable, and Yavimaya just makes everything else a forest in case that I get mana screwed. This is a very green heavy deck, so it's great to have Yavimaya out. Also, for the basic lands, I run 8 basic forests and 6 basic mountains. Hey guys, thanks for watching the video. If you want to see more content like this, go ahead and like, comment, and subscribe at Sometimes MTG. I got a TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. Thanks for watching. Peace.